Debbie, so I'm here with a whole bunch of people to talk about drama lead actress and drama supporting actress at the Emmys this year. They're just so exciting. I could barely contain myself. We're going to start with the lead actresses first. By the way, I'm here with Amanda Spears, Tony Ruiz, Charles Bright, Riley Chow, Zach Laws, and me. That's a lot of people. I have to take a breath. Let's go through the nominees for lead drama actress. They are Viola Davis for How to Get Away with Murder for the episode Wes, Claire Foy for The Crown for the episode Assassins, Elizabeth Moss for The Handmaid's Tale for the episode Night, Keri Russell for The Americans for the episode Diatkovo, Evan Rachel Wood for Westworld for the episode The Bicameral Mind, and Robin Wright for House of Cards for the episode Chapter 65. So my first question, as very smartly suggested by our colleague Riley Chow, is who is not predicting Elizabeth Moss?
Done.
Okay. So,
well, I think there's an argument you can make for why she might not win.
okay.
But I'm not going to not predict her. So,
What's your argument for maybe why she might not win? Because I think it's a slam dunk.
well, I think it's a slam dunk too. I mean, first of all, she's way overdue. 7 seasons of Mad Men and not a single Emmy win. It's kind of crazy. But then you start to think to yourself, yes, and top of the lake, yes. But then you start to think to yourself, well, how come she hasn't won for any of these shows? What is the reasoning behind that? And I kind of wonder. I don't know if anyone in Hollywood is aware of this or not, but Miss Moss is kind of a prominent Scientologist. And, recently there was a story in The Hollywood Reporter and a couple of different outlets about at the TCA Awards when this Leah Remini documentary about her trials with Scientology and her trying to communicate with ex-members and basically expose the church for the sham that it is, won an award at the TCA Awards, which Miss Moss left in protest during. So I kind of wonder if maybe the Scientology thing is what's keeping her from winning Emmys. If she doesn't win for this, then I'm going to have to assume that it's either that or they just don't watch the shows that she's in. So,
I actually have a different argument. I think last year, between the drama, all 6 of the drama acting awards, there was a disconnect between that and series. We only saw half of the winners come from a nominated series and the other half beat someone in a nominated series. I think this year in all 6 of these races, it's going to be more connected to who's in a drama series nominated for drama. So I think if an actor is voting for someone like Claire, voting for like Westworld or The Crown, and you're ticking off people, I think you could make the argument that someone like Claire Foy or Evan Rachel Wood could go along for the ride. We've seen it happen before. I mean, Bryan Cranston was in a nail biter and he was able to pull it off because he kind of, got pushed up for the ride. So while I think she's the one that can win without her series winning, I don't think that it's a slam dunk. I think the only person who might be kind of at a disadvantage might be Keri Russell. And just because I don't think she has another factor going for her. Viola Davis just won an Oscar. Robin Wright still was kind of the standout of her season. She's kind of the one who's doesn't have one more thing. If she just got nominated this year, I think she would definitely be more of a factor. But since it's her 2nd nomination, I think the overdue factor doesn't help her. And remember, Evan Rachel Wood did lose an Emmy to Maggie Smith for Mildred Pierce. So they might think she's a little overdue.
Mm-hmm. Who else?
And I think that just one thing to counter, I think it's a valid point you bring up, Zach, about Scientology, which has always been a very controversial thing within Hollywood and in terms of people leaving the church. But I think the other thing about that is that Scientologists don't have a habit of, when they accept awards, to specifically credit things within Scientology, things that may be more associated with some devout Christians who will accept awards. I'm always thinking of the Grammys, Lauryn Hill, always like that. So I don't think that's going to be a negative thing towards her.
Let me just say, I don't care what wacky thing she believes in or not. I think she totally deserves to win. So
Yeah.
it is a little ironic that she could win an Emmy for this show about an oppressive cult that she can't break away from. But anyway.
Good point.
I will say it's not like the comedy lead actress side where you've got Julia Louis-Dreyfus and then everybody else, and it's kind of like, well, who even could challenge her? Like in this category, we do have Evan Rachel Wood. She won the Critics' Choice Award, and then Claire Foy. She's somebody who has been appearing in like very Emmy-friendly titles for years now, going back to Little Dorrit, and then also in Wolf Hall, where she was kind of like a lead performer in a supporting category, and she wasn't able to get nominated for either of those. So for this one, she's got a very subtle role, and then she immediately won the SAG Award, which is huge because that usually goes to the more famous movie stars. So like we do have other people in this category who are worthy competitors, but I think we all agree that Elizabeth Moss is the one to beat.
Would you think she'd win on episode, or do you think that it would be more competitive?
I think on episode, she on episode especially, she would probably also win. I think it helps the fact that Handmaid's Tale won TCA right at this point, because that award could have gone to any number of nominees in that category, and they went with Handmaid's Tale, which just shows how kind of present Handmaid's Tale is in everybody's thought process.
Although they didn't go with Moss, which was surprising, because I kind of think of like Elizabeth Moss is the Handmaid's Tale, but they gave that show 2 other awards, but then snubbed her, I guess, when it came to the
I think Carrie
winners.
Coon, though, I mean, the critics were very clearly saying that she did have quite an amazing year, and I'm glad that they recognized, or they followed through with that.
I know, I'm not going to complain about that one.
We could be here all day talking about Carrie Coon. She should be in the category. But
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was actually just about to say when you brought up the whole episode thing, I was thinking that I think it's a good thing for Claire Foy that episodes don't matter as much as they used to, because I was when I finally watched her episode, I was very surprised by it because she had several other much better episodes to choose
Totally
from.
agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, this is the
I
John
disagree. I like this episode.
No.
I mean, to me, John Lithgow just owns the show in that episode, and I think she's just like she has some nice romantic tensions moment with her with the horse breeder. But I think that she should have submitted the episode where she finds out that the prime minister and the deputy have been lying to her about their health.
I agree.
And then she dresses them down. That's a great episode for her. She's very lucky though that the episodes don't matter as much.
She could still win though. I mean, go ahead, Tony.
No, I think that she could still. I think she's still competitive with that episode because she has 2 things that Emmy voters love in that episode. She has 2 big speeches. She has the confrontation with Philip, which is just this slow burn of a speech, and yet it's still incredibly emotional. And then she has the tender scene with the prime minister, and then she has her kind of official scene. I agree that the episode that Charlie's talking about would have been an even stronger submission for her, but I don't think that this episode submission discounts her. I think it has all the elements that Emmy voters love, plus the fact that it's the one that they love for writing, obviously. So I don't think that Foy is as out of this as we may think.
I totally agree. That speech with her after she's been made up as the queen and she just kind of like tells Matt Smith the business, gives him his like big turn. It's like she's no longer just Elizabeth, she's Queen Elizabeth II in that moment. And remember, she might have a little bit of an advantage because she plays a real life person. It's become like the new it trend in acting. So that could help her. She is the apple in a basket of oranges.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's
She's
bad.
also got some hardware for the performance as well already,
Yeah.
which Elizabeth Moss does not. And it's one of those things where I can just sort of like, if it's not going to be Elizabeth Moss, I can just like hear it in my ear right now. Claire Foy, you know, it just sort of makes sense that way.
But do you think if she wins and John Lithgow wins and, you know, maybe it picks up writing or directing, it starts to look like it's going to be the drama series winner?
I would have to assume, you know, if it wins that kind of serious hardware on Emmy night. But yeah.
We'll see if it gets any of those.
Yeah,
I think it's a stronger contender for writing than we may think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it looks like consensus is Elizabeth Moss kind of pretty much seems to be in the front, and she might have this. Claire Foy is the likely spoiler because there's a lot of arguments to support her winning this. I would also suggest that if we're looking at, let's just look at episodes for a sec, because some of these episodes are very well chosen. So Robin Wright's episode's pretty good for her. She becomes the president. She's just a complete badass in that particular episode as Claire. Evan Rachel Wood in The Bicameral Mind, she's also a complete and utter badass, and she's just, I was so impressed by her performance. In fact, I would be tempted to vote for her if I was an Emmy voter. That's how good I thought she was. And Keri Russell in Dyatkovo at the, you know, those last 20 minutes, when she's kind of interrogating the old lady and then, you know, spoiler alert, shoots her in the head, I just thought was mind-blowing. Keri Russell always blows my mind. She's amazing.
Yeah, what does she have to do to win an Emmy?
What does she have to do?
Her and Matthew Reed.
She needs to be on The Handmaid's Tale, apparently.
Yeah.
I think her problem has always been that her character Elizabeth can be slightly unlikable at times, but that's what makes her so interesting, is that she's this complex character.
And she's buttoned down, you know, so I think that's a huge...
How pissed will she be if Alexis Bledel wins and she's not the first actress who was once on the WB to like...
Do you think she's thinking about that? I think it's more about Lauren Graham being a little bit disappointed that Alexis Bledel is going to win an Emmy before her. Even Viola Davis.
Or Matthew Reese wins and she's got to ride home with him while he holds that trophy.
Well, he just is like rubbing it in her face. He would never do that to his wife.
I'm horrible.
She's also obviously a huge Emmy contender, and she's got lots of awards, and I don't watch that show, but I'm sure that she could be a contender. And then you've got Elizabeth Moss herself in the finale of The Handmaid's Tale. When I've seen the episode 2 or 3 times, and every time I watched it, I've marveled at her performance, especially when she's in the limo and she's looking out, you know, what's going on down, you know, just across the road. It brings tears to my eyes, and it's absolutely and utterly devastating. So the episodes are very well chosen in this category.
Yeah, and the episode for Viola Davis would make her competitive. It's really heartbreaking. She's crying. She's crying most of the episode, actually. So it's really one of those where she really gives you everything she can do. So if this was on episode, I might put her like second. She just won an Oscar too. So I mean, you know, she could totally Juliana Margulies this thing and, you know, win again after.
Did she pull off a wig at all? Did she pull off any wigs? And did she?
I have no idea.
Not this episode.
Ask Marcus.
We need to ask Marcus because he's all.
No, she takes a razor blade and cuts her hair off.
All right. It's all about the hair. Riley, do you have any interesting factoids and fun facts about this particular category? You don't have to, but I'm always interested about that.
I guess Evan Rachel Wood is kind of a supporting role compared to all these other people. I mean, like she was in the pilot, and then from like episodes 2 to 9, that was more the Thandie Newton show. She disappeared in the middle for one episode, but then the finale kind of really justified her placement and her nomination.
Yeah, good point.
And for Claire Foy, she has to kind of overcome like a stigma. Like not a lot of actresses have won all 3. I think there's only been like 5, and the last one to do it was Jessica Lange because they technically considered American Horror Story a drama at that point. So the odds are not in her favor.
Wait, what do you mean all 3?
Like the SAG, the
Globe, SAG, Emmy,
and the Emmy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a huge achievement. I remember when Gillian Anderson did it like a million years ago, and I still remember how excited I was for her to pull that off. So look, I was thinking about moving on to the supporting category because that one we could literally talk about for a couple of hours because it's doing my head in. So I'm really, really interested to know where you're all coming from with that one, because I don't think we're all going to have the same person. We may actually, but I think it's super close. So let me just run through the nominees, and then we'll go through who we need to argue who has the best shot here. So we have Uzo Aduba, who has already won a few of these things. For Orange is the New Black, for People Persons, incredible. Millie Bobby Brown for Stranger Things, for The Bathtub, another amazing episode. Ann Dowd for The Handmaid's Tale, for the pilot, Offred, brilliant in that. Chrissie Metz for This Is Us, also in the pilot, very impressive. Tandy Newton for Westworld, for Trace Decay, incredible. And Samira Wylie for The Handmaid's Tale in the finale night. Amazing. So really, really good episode choices here. I know that Gold Derby had something to do with a few of them. I don't know what to do here, guys. I'm really lost. I'm really confused and lost. So somebody please help me.
If they watch the episode, Samira Wylie would win this. She would
You think?
absolutely win this.
I agree with you, Amanda, and let me tell
I
you why.
completely
also.
agree.
Wow.
You know why else? Because if this was the old tape system, she's in her episode.
Yeah.
She's in Ann Dowd's, I believe. She's in Orange is the New Black. So that's.
I don't think she's in that episode. I watched it last night.
Is she not in? Which one is she not
People
in?
Persons?
Number 11. I don't think she's in Uzo's tape.
Isn't that when?
Well, she's in Orange is the New Black anyway. But.
True.
So,
That's
I
true.
mean, they're aware of it.
okay. Yeah.
Wow,
I haven't.
she's-
They're also aware that that was the season of Orange is the New Black where she became deceased.
Dies. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a lot of Samira Wylie in this year's Emmy race. So.
Yeah, and it was kind of a surprise nomination. Although in the early days, a lot of us were thinking Samira Wylie was a contender, and then she kind of fell off the radar a bit because we thought maybe it's probably more Ann Dowd and probably maybe Yvonne Strahovski. But she made it back in, and perhaps it's because voters recognize that she's had a very good year and she's been doing really good work the last few years. But why is she so good in the finale, Zach? Why do you think that episode in particular was a good choice for her?
Well, I mean, and Amanda and Tony, you guys are agreeing with me, so I'd like to hear from you as well. I mean, everybody's great in the finale. It's just it's a visceral episode. It gives everyone in it a lot to do. They're wrapping up the first season, and I mean, she's just spectacular in it. The kind of arc that her character takes from being the best friend and very outgoing to having to basically prostitute herself in order to stay alive, and then fighting back, and then escaping to Canada and meeting up with her old pal Moss's husband. I mean, it's a beautiful episode. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think it was so smart to submit the finale where she's terrified, she's trying to run away, and then you get her as a handmaid from Ann Dowd's episode. And if I didn't know any better, I would have thought Ann Dowd might have thrown this to her. Like, seriously, like when I saw this, I was like, oh no. Oh no. But it's just, it was so perfect, and she would win.
It's such a complete arc that her character has. It's the most wrapped up story. So that and it ends on such a impactful note with her reuniting with Luke. There's something to be said about an arc that shows a beginning, middle, and end, and you really get to see the beginning, middle, and end in combination with Dowd's tape.
Wow. Charles Riley, haven't heard from you yet, but my mind is blown already.
Yeah, I really don't know where to go with this. Right now, I have it's weird because I want to take all this stuff about the episodes and like apply that to my thinking, but then I have to think again because this voting pool is much bigger and it's a lot harder to verify, people actually watching these episodes, whether or not that actually factors into it. And part of me actually is thinking who will have the most broad support. Part of me is thinking that Millie Bobby Brown is going to be really formidable here.
Yeah.
That she could stand a really good shot at this.
Okay.
I just can't get past the kid thing. I want her to win. I would be thrilled. I think it would be a really great moment. But I think the one I might go with is the only individual SAG nominee from Westworld out of a cast of who's who, and that's Thandie Newton. I think she should have submitted Anthony Hopkins' episode Trompe l'oeil, just because she has that "I've died 1,000 times, I'm a god,
Yeah.
I'm brilliant at it," where you're like, damn.
She's so good.
She's been the talking point of that show the entire season, and she's the breakout star.
Riley?
Yeah, I really like Tandy Newton's episode. I like how she is in flashback. She's on, I guess you could call it the operating table, and then she's also in the park. So I think we get to see all sides to her character. I think she should be undeniable for this. I think it helps that early on she was seen as the standout from the show. Like, she was the only SAG nominee, even though, you know, Anthony Hopkins is more famous. We've got Evan Rachel Wood, who is kind of the de facto lead of the show. Like, it's not like Samira Wylie, where I was just kind of waiting all season, like, okay, when's her material going to come? With Tandy Newton, it was like every single week. I was like, okay, she could submit this, she could submit this.
You could have submitted episode 2, which was all about her character.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say for Ann Dowd, she submitted the pilot, which was a surprising choice to, I think, a lot of us. But I think it's surprising because she didn't actually get a submission across the season. I'm not really sure what she's doing here, but it seems that you know, the industry does want to pay their respects to Ann Dowd this year. And I wonder if she could win in kind of a Ben Mendelsohn way, where, you know, they like her, it doesn't matter what she's doing, but, you know, it's time to pay our respects to Ann Dowd.
I think what she did with that
like
character. I think what she did with that character overall is more important than her having like an individual episode. Because yeah, you can make the argument that she doesn't have, in the same way that some of these other women do, an episode that is solely focused on her. But what she did throughout the 10 episodes in making your skin crawl every time that I just reread the book actually, and I mean, she's so perfectly cast in that. She's your absolute worst nightmare of what this character could be, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why she's here.
And if I were ranking them,
I feel like they would actually they really seem to with Ann Dowd. There's just something about that character that is so indelible, that is so completely, like, even when she's not on screen, she's on your mind, and she's a presence. And so that, combined with the love that she received with The Leftovers, she's certainly a formidable contender in this category.
yeah, if I were ranking them based on episode, I would put Ann Dowd second, because she has a really great bit in the finale where she doesn't want to kill Janine. She's struggling with it. She's got, you can tell like all the inner turmoil going on in her head. Ironically, the person I would put in last place is Chrissie Metz, because the pilot was just not. She doesn't really have a big standout episode.
Really? Is that? I mean, forgetting about her
it doesn't really do anything for me. It's not as explosive as the others.
I think with her, it's like, I agree. I think the pilot was an odd submission for her. I think the one where she was at the for lack of a better term, fat camp, would have been a better pick, because it's more centrally focused on her. But let's not forget, this woman has a really great Emmy story.
Yep.
She was dead broke before she got this part. This completely changed her life. You know, it's sort of a breakout role from the series. So I wouldn't count her out. I agree with Charlie. I wouldn't count out Millie Bobby Brown. Again, somebody who kind of came out of nowhere and is the emotional center of the show. And I agree with you, Amanda. I have a hard time voting for a kid. That's why I'm not picking her to win. I would not. I agree with Riley that Thandie Newton is the standout and probably the front runner. I would not count out Uzo Adubo to win this again. She's already got 2 Emmys for this role. And if we're talking about all these different newcomers who are probably going to be drawing votes away from each other, don't count out the person who we've all gotten 6th place to just get that 17% of the vote that you need to win.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And one other thing to keep in mind with Chrissie Metz is that, you know, there is an empathy with her submission, whether, you know, we can debate the merits of the submission as a whole, but when she's, for all intents and purposes, naked on that scale and looking down, and she has that scene in the bathroom, that's something that a lot of people, we're talking about Hollywood here. We're talking about people who obsess over every pound, every ounce that they have. There is something incredibly empathetic about her in that episode. So does she have the big arc in the episode? No, but she has the empathy and the relatability that, that I think we can't count her out either.
Yeah, but I think I keep going back to Uzo Aduba because last year Maggie Smith won, and which was a bit of a letdown. They like to just go back to the well. They like going back to the well, and I think and Uzo Aduba is a wonderful well to go back to. Like, I think there is a lot of merit in her performance as Crazy Eyes on Orange Is the New Black, and they're probably not even watching the episodes, but her episode is dynamite. But forgetting that, she is the standout character from the show. She's always nominated. She's won lots of hardware. I have a feeling they're going to go back to her because the rest of these women and Millie Bobby Brown, she's just a girl, they're all formidable and they're all really fighting this out. And I know Gold Derby, we have Tandy Newton, I think, pretty much in front in terms of our predictions. And I think Chrissie Metz is quite high up too. So
I have them.
We're all over the place here. This category is going to be a shocker no matter who wins, because then we'll be disappointed for all the other formidable contenders. And so maybe we just have to go with what our gut is telling us. And I think my gut is saying Tandy Newton, but...
Uzo Aduba is in 5th place and Samira Wylie is in 6th.
Okay.
I might just say screw it and put Samira in first and make that my double bet odd.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, she's certainly not out of the running.
But do you think that, this is when I don't usually make my predictions this way, but do you really think Westworld isn't going to pick up one of these 4 actings, not win?
I think it's going to pick up at least one, and we'll talk about it in another.
Yeah, this is the one I think they could win. This is the one I always expected, even when I thought Westworld wasn't going to be nominated for drama series.
Yeah.
Oh, don't we all look like fools in reruns?
We're all going to look like idiots. Who was it? I think it was Tony who said it about Ann Dow, that they just might pay their respects, or maybe it was Riley. I think that argument is really starting to stick with me. I think she could easily take this in a Margaret Martindale style. Yeah, I reckon you know what? She could win both, and maybe I might go down that avenue. So I'm really wavering because I think seeing Millie Bobby Brown up on the stage would be such a wonderful treat. It would be like an Anna Paquin type scenario from,
And don't forget, she also has hardware for that role as well because they won at SAG for the ensemble.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't really help them.
She won
The other thing that we need to remember is that Stranger Things is still this hot property, and if they don't give Stranger Things drama series, one place that they will go, and really the breakout star of that show, is Millie Bobby Brown. If anybody's going to beat the whole kid thing, there's always got to be a first person to do it. She is the person who could do it.
That's a good argument. Because
there's also something to be said at SAG where they were beaten by Claire Foy. That's because they had both, it might be because they had both Millie Bobby Brown and Winona Ryder nominated. And, I've looked through the past SAG awards, and in the 23 instances where you've got 2 people from one show nominated against people from other shows, the show that's gotten multiple nominations has never won.
Yeah.
But they were strong enough to win ensemble, and then they couldn't win, either of the acting categories. That's kind of a strange thing to happen.
The other thing about it winning ensemble is that enough actors, and not all of them, of course, are Emmy voters, but enough actors were comfortable giving this ensemble award to a show that has a sizable amount of kids in it that are the main characters on the show. And so, that was one of the great things of this year's SAG Award, was watching their reaction and then them, rushing up on stage, which was, it was infectious to watch. So I can't help but thinking that that's going to be one of the things that's going to make them, that could make some people who may have been apprehensive about awarding someone. How old is Millie Bobby Brown? Like what?
13?
13, something like that. Yeah, giving
11.
Someone who's only 13 years old. I think that actually makes up for it.
Yeah.
There's just been so many good kids that have lost, and it just
At the Emmys?
there's been some. I mean, it's
Well, there's
just
Frankie Muniz and what's that kid's name?
Fred
Savage.
Savage,
Yeah.
Chris Coulter,
Yeah.
Maisie
So, I mean,
Williams. I mean, it's
Okay.
just
Oh, how could I forget Maisie? Yeah.
Good old.
yeah, it's just one of those things where I would love to make that prediction, but there's just so many things telling me that I can't.
You guys are just killing me. Like, you're not helping. None of you are helping.
we just need to
You're
admit that
welcome.
we don't know who's
Tandy
going to
Newton.
win. So
Yeah, I'm going with Thandie Newton. I think she's the breakout. She's the most likely to win from Westworld.
Yeah.
I'm going with Tandy for now, but
Say.
I
I might move Samira into second.
Do the dart
for the
thing,
heck of it.
Tony. Like, we'll do your dart, throwing a dart. I think that would be better. That might work.
you know what? If any of these women win, they're all deserving. I will not.
What do you mean if?
When they might just call off the category.
it's a
not
writer's
gonna write in winner.
it's a write-in win for Maggie Smith for
Or no, just went over right against
End of the
old
world.
habits and just steals the trophy.
yeah,
That's fake.
or
news.
they get the wrong envelope. So
Boy, did I walk into that one.
You did. I love it. Well, look, I think
But it's so nice to see a category so diverse. I mean, we have
Yeah.
Black actresses. We have a child. It's really a
Yes.
fun group.
Someone who's up in the gay also.
Yeah, we have one
Right.
that's like finally getting her due.
yeah, veteran.
I'm going to be
children.
like Charles mad if Andal does not win one of these things. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
break my computer screen.
I think she's going to do it.
Don't break your screen for the love of God.
Yeah,
Don't
please
break your
don't do a
screen.
Margot Martindale when she won.
Is that why you're
Charles
going to the
Berkeley.
Emmys, Charles? Because Margot's not going to give you cash for that. You're going to bring her your screen.
If I see her, I'm gonna start yelling. I'll be in the mezzanine, but if
You
I see
owe
her
me.
down at the orchestra, I'll be like, "You owe me money." Get your hands off me.
I need to find that video. I'm going to watch it later because that was gold. I can't wait.
I know. That was my favorite.
In case anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, when we had the Creative Arts Emmys Gold Derby video, Charles, he got really upset when Margot Martindale won the award and broke his screen.
I literally yelled, "Oh my God, it happened again," and threw my highlighter at my screen. And if you
How
look at
come
my
you
little
didn't win Gold Derby, like, of the member of the year for that? I mean,
Yeah, I know.
system is rigged. System is rigged.
It's totally rigged. Okay, and my
you won the
final,
popular vote, but not the electoral
Exactly.
college.
and the people at your inauguration, it was a huge number. I've been basically, there's a possibility that Handmaid's Tale could actually win a lot of awards because of what's going on in the real world, and therefore they could just give it to Ann Dowd or Samira Wylie.
But we can't go a chat without a vote split. Like, couldn't they split the vote? I mean, their
I
votes
guess we have to
so,
raise that.
Cheers
Absolutely.
to everyone playing the
Yeah.
drinking game at home.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that's what kind of gives me pause about predicting either of them, because they could just split the vote, as we saw in category after category after category after category last year.
Yeah.
So I don't, unless they just tie, wouldn't
would be
that make Hulu
amazing.
happy? So
Yes, please.
we
That-
can dream,
Yes,
right?
please.
And then
Oh,
if
my goodness.
like Ann Dowd could go up with Samira Wylie with a cattle prod and then just prod her and take the Emmy, I would
But
pay
I'm
to
very
see
happy
that.
that Uzo didn't that Uzo submitted this episode. He didn't try and swing this to Samira Wylie, because we have seen people from the West Wing back in the days where it's okay, it's Bradley Whitford's year. I really appreciate that she didn't go, I've won two. I'm going to give my buddy a chance and
Put in the finale.
submit her best episode, because we have seen people. I think Eric Stone Street, the second year of Modern Family, probably threw it, but that's
Right.
another discussion. But
And
I
Holland-
appreciate her being in this for herself.
That's right. And yeah, all right. I think we're going to leave it there. We're kind of none the wiser, but we've done our best. We'll be back shortly to talk about the male side of the equation. Thanks, everybody.